Okay, hi everyone, this is my translation project presentation and Saturday Night. I decided to do a subtitling because I'm really interested in audiovisual translation as a field. So I chose this video. It's called The Nerd's Guide to Learning Everything Online. It is a TED Talk and it was made by John Green. He's an American author of young adult fiction. He's very renowned nowadays. But he's also a YouTube video vlogger educator. Yes, he uploads videos with his brother more or less weekly to teach about topics that are appealing to especially youngsters, such as literature, history, and science. But he does so in such a didactic way, such as in a inactive way. Okay, he is very famous because of these two books, especially The 14 Stars that was written in 2012 and Paper Towns. Both of them were made into a movie. The 14 Stars was released last year and was a complete success. And Paper Towns was also a success, but it was released this year. Paper Towns has to do a lot with this particular TED Talk because he's relating the concept of Paper Town, that is a place that is created by cartographers to avoid the copying of their maps. A place created to enhance copyright and in learning communities, especially online learning communities, so it's a parallel or a metaphor between these two concepts. Let's take a look into the source text analysis. So I consider that the intention of the text is mainly to state a personal experience and give an opinion about online learning communities. So the author is trying to relate his own experiences in learning communities when he was in high school and college, working for a magazine, and then when he became a writer, he stopped being in a learning community and how that made him very sad and very difficult for him to keep on learning without feeling miserable, and how he found a solution for this problem in online learning communities such as YouTube especially. And in the narrative style of the talk is mainly a dialogue. It is a source speech. He makes jokes and he tries to interact with the audience. And the readership is everyone I consider. He is a neutral register in a warm tone. He's not boring. And my intention as a translator is to convey the meaning of the author accurately and practice the translation skills, as translation is not something you acquire from reading or from one day to another, but it's a matter of practice, and practice. So let's check the translation strategies I use for this video. Literal translation, for instance, I'll read the source text fragment. So, my friend Emmett walked in and he said, "How long have you been playing Super Mario Kart?" And I said, "I don't know, like 6 hours." And he said, "Do you realize that if you'd work at Baskin-Robbins those 6 hours, you could have made $30? So in some ways, you just paid $30 to play Super Mario Kart." And my translation. Mi amigo Emmett entró y me dijo, "¿Cuánto tiempo llevas jugando Super Mario Kart?" Y yo le dije, "No sé, como 6 horas". Y él dijo, "¿Te das cuenta de que si hubieras trabajado en Baskin Robbins esas 6 horas, podrías haber ganado $30? Así que, de alguna manera, acabas de pagar $30 por jugar Super Mario Kart". Okay, that's for literal translation. Now transposition. I read books about how the Uzbek people came to identity as Muslims. Leí libros sobre cómo los uzbecos llegaron a identificarse como musulmanes. It's considered that the transpositions in the word identify, or especially in the Caucasian, came to identity. So I translate that as llegar a identificarse. I had troubles with this particular sentence because I first translated Uzbek people as la gente de Uzbekistán, but it would be something like la gente de Uzbekistán llegó a identificarse como musulmana. And as you realized, it kind of loses reference to the adjective Muslims and to the verb. I mean, it sounded weird, so I decided to stay with Los Uzbekos because it was better or easier to track the reference between the verb and the direct complement. Okay, the next example is from equivalence. The source text said, "These fish are almost as out of place as my picked up food." You can see that the idiom is my picked up food, but in Spanish you don't say mi cerdo que voló. But it is way more common to say mi cerdo volado, not even mi cerdo volado. That is quite unnatural. So my translation is, estos peces están casi tan fuera de lugar como un cerdo volado. And teacher proofs in your assessment. Next example is from adaptation. It's true that I had teachers that didn't give up on me, and I was very fortunate to have those teachers because I often gave them cause to think there was no reason to invest in me. Es verdad que tuve profesores que no se rindieron conmigo, y fui afortunado de tener esos profesores porque muchas veces les di razones para pensar que no había motivo para creer en mí. So the adaptation comes in, they didn't give up on me, no se rindieron conmigo. I know, at first it looks quite weird, but I think it conveys the meaning perfectly. I often gave them cause to think there was no reason to invest in it. It was quite difficult also, because I had to play with the words cause, reason, motive to translate this. And also, to invest in me gave me problems. At first I translated it as no había razón para invertir en mí, but I was told that it was way better or way more natural used to say creer en mí in Spanish, and I agree. So this is the final version of this sentence. Now let's see an example of inversion. Contrasted to the scorching desert that surrounds this place, so are these people. This is a fragment of a video within the video, and it is quite out of place here. You have to see the video to contextualize the sentence because it's weird. So I translated it as también están estas personas comparadas con el desierto abrazadas que rodea este lugar. I think it's better to say it this way because comparadas con el desierto que rodea este lugar, también están estas personas, sounds a bit more complicated to me. So I say this version. Okay, let's go with concentration. But a lot of the learning that I did in high school wasn't about what happened inside the classroom. It was about what happened outside of the classroom. Pero mucho de lo que aprendí en secundaria no fue acerca de lo que pasaba en el salón de clases, sino de lo que pasaba fuera de él. As you can see, and as it is oral speech, the author, the lecturer, is allowed to use repetition. But when you're subtitling, you have a limited space for characters, maximum 45 characters, and that's a lot. Otherwise, the eye wouldn't be able to read what you write. So, concentration is a very good strategy, and you can see that he repeated inside the classroom, and I used elation to convey the meaning appropriately. It was about what happened outside of the classroom, sino de lo que pasaba fuera de él. and I think it makes perfect sense. Let's see some examples of code now. Arbitrary hurdles is translated as obstáculos arbitrarios, learning community, comunidad de aprendizaje, community learner, aprendiz en comunidad. This other extract combines many techniques, and it's not even a whole sentence. So let's check. Not because I memorized Emily Dickinson in school when I was in high school, but because there was a girl when I was in high school, and her name was Amanda, and I had a crush on her. No porque haya memorizado a Emily Dickinson en secundaria, sino porque había una chica que se llamaba Amanda y yo estaba enamorado de ella. Okay, I used omission and imposition in this part in school when I was in high school, and I replaced it just by using secundaria because when you're in secundaria, you're implying that you're in school, so there's no need to repeat it. And it's conservation as well. And then he says again when I was in high school, and I decided to eliminate that as well, to omit that. And finally, there is an example of equivalence. And I had a crush on her, to have a crush on is equivalent for estar enamorado de. So yeah, that's an example of equivalence. Oh, and finally, there's an example of adaptation as well. There was a girl when I was in high school, and her name was Amanda. I adapted it to una chica que se llamaba Amanda. Okay, let's take a look into the translations difficulties I had aside from the things that I already mentioned. So the first one is the word miserable. As you know, miserable is not exactly miserable in Spanish, but it could have several meanings depending on which context it's word. So I'll read the sentence. For the first time since high school, I found myself without a learning community, and it was miserable. So as you can see, it's not the person who is miserable, but it is that state of being without a learning community that was miserable. So I could have used modulation maybe to change the perspective of this sentence and make it to be the other who was miserable. But I decided to stay with this view, and I translated it as horrible. So, por primera vez desde la secundaria me encontré sin una comunidad de aprendizaje y fue horrible. And I think that gives the sense and the warmth of the speech and we registered his using for this particular talk. The next one was this sentence. We turn the earth into a sandwich by having one person hold a piece of bread at one point on the earth, and on the exact opposite point of the earth have another person holding a piece of bread. As you can see, it is very, very repetitive and very long. So what I did was to have an assessment with the teacher because it was difficult, and we decided to use concentration and omission to make this meeting. Volvimos la tierra un sándwich al poner una persona que sostenía un pedazo de pan en un punto de la tierra y otra en el extremo opuesto. It's way shorter and way easier to read. The final big difficulty I had was this one, the title, The Nerd's Guide to Learning Everything Online. I could have translated La guía nerd para aprenderlo todo en línea, La guía de los nerds para aprender de todo en línea, La guía de los nerds para aprender de todo online, la guía nerd para aprender de todo en línea. I know, I still don't know, but I thought that maybe the best option for this was to stick with the first option, la guía nerd para aprender de todo en línea. So thank you very much. Now I will show you an extract of my subtitling. I hope you like it, and thank you for your attention.
What is the process of cartography? It's, sailing upon some land and thinking, I think I'll draw that bit of land. And then wondering, maybe there's some more land to draw. And that's where learning really began for me. It's true that I had teachers that didn't give up on me, and I was very fortunate to have those teachers because I often gave them cause to think there was no reason to invest in me. But a lot of the learning that I did in high school wasn't about what happened inside the classroom. It was about what happened outside of the classroom. For instance, I can tell you that there's a certain slant of light winter afternoons that oppresses like the heft of cathedral tunes, not because I memorized Emily Dickinson in school when I was in high school, but because there was a girl when I was in high school, and her name was Amanda, and I had a crush on her, and she liked Emily Dickinson poetry. The reason I can tell you what opportunity cost is because one day when I was playing Super Mario Kart on my couch, my friend Emmett walked in and he said, "How long have you been playing Super Mario Kart?" And I said, "I don't know, like 6 hours?" And he said, "You realize that if you worked at Baskin-Robbins those 6 hours, you could have made $30. So in some ways, you just paid $30 to play Super Mario Kart." And I was like, I'll take that deal. But I learned what opportunity cost is.